What if you could launch a service business that charges $4,000 to $8,000 per month per client using nothing more than some simple AI tools and the step-by-step system we're about to show you? Cold email outreach services are absolutely exploding right now, and here's why. AI has completely transformed how emails get personalized. We're not talking about basic mail merges anymore, but rather how we can use AI to research prospects, understand their business challenges, and craft genuinely personalized messages that actually get responses from leads. And the timing of this couldn't be better because there's a new wave of AI tools that are solving some of the biggest problems that killed cold email in the past, namely deliverability issues, spam filters, and that generic obvious mass email field that made everybody hit the spam button instantly. And if you've done any SEO or link building before, you'll feel right at home with this approach. But even if you haven't, we're starting from the ground up here. So today, we're showing you exactly how to build and scale a cold email service business that generates incredible leads for clients. You'll see our step-by-step campaign process, real examples of what to expect, the AI prompts we use for killer personalization, and how to tackle some of the common pitfalls that trip up most people when trying to make AI personalization actually work. So if you're ready to turn AI-powered cold email into a serious revenue stream that pays $4,000 to $8,000 per client every month, then keep watching.
So Mark, how do I make money with AI? What's the best way to make money?
All right, I'm going to start with one which I think will be familiar to a lot of people who have watched this podcast for a long time, because it kind of builds on this idea of outreach and link building. And that's doing B2B cold email outreach as a way to generate sales for a client. And this is a wildly popular service, which a lot of people are offering, a lot of people are paying for right now.
And you have experience with it as well, right? You've been
we do. So we've been running one
of
of these campaigns for Marketing Pros, one of our partner companies. And I'm going to show you inside that campaign and some of the results and how we built it. But first, I want to show you how much other people are charging for this kind of service. So this is proven concept, and they're charging between $2,000 and $7,200 per month for one campaign. And they're promising between 20, 40, or 80 leads, depending on the package you go for. And I worked out that with a 1% conversion rate, you probably need to be sending about 100 emails per day to get 20 leads. And I'll show you all the tools we use to get way, way more than that. But really, like, why this is so powerful right now is because AI lets you personalize every message you send. So it feels to the recipient, if you do it correctly, that they're getting a personal email that you've kind of handwritten to them versus all the templated crap that anyone's website gets bombarded with every day. So AI gives you the opportunity to stand out from everyone else who's doing this.
And I would say most people who cold outreach today, they don't do that.
Yeah, right.
Still kind of like an opportunity. There's lots of cold outreach, but most cold outreach, like 90%, is complete crap. And it's not hard to stand out, actually.
Yeah, I mean, just by way of having this podcast, we get reached out all the time, like several times a day by podcast agencies wanting us to take one of their guests that they placed. And it always goes like this. Oh, I watched your episode on, and then like it's the exact title that they've pulled. It was great. I really enjoyed it. And then they introduced their guest and pitch. And it's like, yeah, you obviously haven't read it. Everybody sees through this. So,
you know, the best pitch I got recently in my inbox, I got a pitch about menopause at work for a topic.
Okay.
And I was like, that matches this podcast totally. I can see all of you guys.
And you know, this happens all the time. That's a prospecting error, right? They've somehow lumped us in with like other types of podcasts that they were trying to reach out to. And because they've used a template, which is no personalization, and not using AI to do it and to understand anything about our business, then it's flopped, right? You block that person, never speak to them again.
I report as spam usually, so yeah.
Here's another example. Sales high, $4,000, $8,000, $12,000 per month in order to do this. And I think the way they pitch this is 150 touches per day. I think that's emails per day, 250 emails per day at $8,000, or 500 emails per day at $1,200. They do some phone stuff in there as well. So, you know, you adjust the price down a bit, but certainly people are charging, you know, $2,000 to $5,000 for a kind of low to mid level email outreach campaign. And companies are paying this.
It almost feels like it's the price of link building, right? It feels like it's as easy to get leads as it is to get links at this point.
Absolutely. It's probably easier because people
That's crazy.
get fewer outreach messages about services than they do about link building. Every website owner gets multiple link building requests per day. Most of them go to spam. And indeed, with any cold outreach, avoiding getting put into spam is really the game these days, because Gmail and Hotmail and Outlook and all the big providers have gotten so much better at detecting it these days. So there is a solution, which I don't think we've talked about in the podcast before, but it's called Instantly.ai. And it's essentially an outreach tool, right? So you're probably familiar with Mailshake or the free outreach tool you get in Hunter.ai. It's for link building. We used it back in the day. But what's different about Instantly is it's really built with deliverability and AI in mind. So what you can do is you can buy Google Workspace accounts, domains and accounts within Instantly, and they'll set them up for you automatically. So you don't have to go set up your SMTP settings, mess around with your DNS. You just type in what you need and it all happens automatically inside Instantly.
That's what I was promised with AI.
You still pay the same price as you do for normal, $5 a month or whatever the going rate is. I think they just increased their prices. I got an email about that recently. But we have 18 email accounts on different domains, which sound like Marketing Pros. So we have like marketingprosemail.com or marketingprosteam.com or whatever it is. And within each one of those, we have multiple accounts. So the beauty of Instantly is that they will then warm up these outreach messages. And this isn't like the shitty Lemlist warm-ups that they're sending, AI crap to each other. It's done really well, and they'll send, I think it's about 70 emails per day. And because everyone who uses it has all their emails in the system, they have a huge network of people to send emails back and forth to.
So all their customers email each other. So it's like a PBN for warming up emails.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Okay. But it works. This is the thing. It absolutely works. And they have scores and metrics in there that you can see. So yeah, fantastic tool to do that. And I'm going to show you now how to do the prospecting and the outreach. First, I'll just show you some of our results. So this is a brand new campaign that we launched. And you can see we're kind of scaling up slowly. We're only sending, 30 emails, 36 emails a day. We're up to 75 emails per day. So not even at the 100 emails a day we need to hit this level yet. We're a few weeks in. But we've already gotten 6 leads. And these are not just random out of offices. These are actual opportunities that want to book a call. So it filters all those
These are not people telling you fuck off and you count that as a reply. And
exactly. So the actual reply rate is, you can see here, it's about 2.1 to 2.8%, which is good for cold email outreach. You could obviously do better, but it's early days yet. It's pretty good. And we're getting good leads. We have had several calls booked from these leads already. And each client can be worth tens of thousands of dollars to marketing pros. So it's a huge opportunity there.
Nice.
So there's a couple of really interesting tools that you can use to do prospecting, which is when you need to find out, build a list of people you want to outreach to. One of them is called Clay, and it's about $150 a month, $350 a month, or up to 10,000 credits here. They do have some really cool features like this waterfall thing where if one prospect doesn't work, you can go automatically to the next one. There is some really cool tech behind that. If you want to it's not cheap. If you want to get started, another option is Apollo, where on the monthly plan you can get 5,000 credits per month for $60, which isn't it's still a little bit of money, but it isn't.
Is it 5,000 emails or something like this? Or
5,000 rows you can export from that. Okay. But there's a hack if you want to go super budget. There is an Appify actor which scrapes Apollo, and it only costs $1.20 for 1,000 leads. So for a couple bucks, you can get enough prospects to run a $2,000 a month campaign. So the economics of that work out really well.
Obviously. The arbitrage here is very good.
Exactly. And the good thing about Appify is you can integrate it into NAN or Make.com or any kind of AI workflow. Automation workflow. So you can actually do all of the prospecting within your automation. So if you set it up correctly, you build it once, you can just onboard new clients, and you'll change the search filters to whatever their industry is, and you'll be able to search. Pointing out that this is really for B2B services, right? If you're selling to agencies or selling to other businesses, this approach is absolutely perfect. But it wouldn't work if you were selling, I don't know, groceries to the general public or something like that. It's not for that.
Okay. Still really powerful, because obviously the people that benefit from this, they also have a high lead value, right? It's worth a lot every time they get, so you're like 6 leads. Well, if you again, if you sell 6 stuffed animals, it's nothing to write home about. But if you get 6 lawyer leads or something like that, then that's actually quite a bit of money. That can change a business, and that can be worth a lot of money. Someone would pay you a lot of money for this if you could automate this for them using these pretty cheap tools.
Exactly. So let me show you a couple of automations that I've actually built to do some things here. So the first one is a prospect picker, and I've used AI to decide which of the prospects I want to email. So a very common issue.
Can you walk me through what happens exactly?
Let me just explain, because one of the most common issues with outreach is you'll make a big list of thousands of prospects, and then you'll realize that quite a lot of those people are from the same company. So you might have, 15 people all at one company. And then you have this decision to make. It's like, do you outreach to all of them at the same time? You put them in order? Do you reach out to a single person? And, there's arguments for both. But really, it depends what you're trying to do. So in our case, we were trying to reach someone who was responsible for hiring and HR decisions around the video editing team. So what we did is this automation, it pulls all of the prospects from the Google Sheet, and then it groups them up. So anyone who's from the same company will be grouped. And then it feeds that into an AI prompt, which we're using the Google's Gemini model here. And it basically says, hey, we're trying to reach some Google Gemini 2.0 Flash.
Okay, so very cheap. Basically
it's free. Yeah. We get 1,500 free per day, which is why we chose that one. And we're basically saying, who should we be outreaching to? Here's all the prospects. Here's their job titles. Here's their positions. Here's what we're trying to do. And then it just makes a decision and flags that into the Google Sheet. So that's all this automation is doing, deciding who to reach out to. Then
valuable, but it would do very poorly on LinkedIn because there's not enough nodes. Like you would need at least 200 more nodes to get people's attention.
Yes. If you want to comment, I saw your post.
Comment cold outreach to get this automation on this video if you want.
Don't. That's not going to work. But yeah. So the second step is to do some research on the prospect and write the email personalization. So let me just fast forward a bit and let me show you. This is the actual email we're sending. Now, if anyone has done SEO 15 years ago, they might be thinking, hey, what are these squiggly bracket things with the variations? Well, that's called syntax. And, it sounds a bit old school, but we do this in a very clever way. And by the way, AI is amazing for doing this. So basically, if you want to write, let's say 100 emails per day, if you're sending everyone the exact same email, it gets flagged quite quickly that this is a template and it's kind of spam, right? So it affects your deliverability. But if you send all 100 of those people a unique email, then it's far less likely that your emails are going to be flagged as spam, algorithmically by any spam detection.
So duplicate content is a thing in cold outreach too.
Absolutely. So there's two ways you combat that. One is by using syntax, but it has to make sense, right? Don't go crazy with this and have a million variations. Like a good example is my intro, I'll say either hi Steve, hello Steve, or hey Steve. And the first name's a dynamic field I pull from my prospect list here. So that's 3 variations right there. And every sentence, I have like 2 or 3 variations of how I position some of the phrases in it. So it just creates all these very different emails, which all say the same thing and all make sense. But where I do the true personalization is I have a little icebreaker here, and that's the merge field, which I've named email 1. And what
this is written by AI, right?
Yeah. What that does is, if we go back to our automation here, is this automation is responsible for generating that icebreaker. It's 1 or 2 sentences. And what it will do is I'm doing some research on the prospect and the company. And I've set this up to research 2 things. The first being some general insights about the company. So who are their clients? What have they done recently? Have they won any awards? What do they do? Just general insights about the company. And the other is location insights. So where is their office based? Do they have a remote team? These types of questions. And I'm making a JSON file, essentially, which is just a way of structuring data with some of these parameters inside NAN.
How do you get the data?
So what do you mean?
Like, how do you get the information about the company? What's this location insight node?
Yeah, so what it is it's using Google Gemini, but there is a feature called grounded in search. And I think I can show that to you, actually.
At the bottom, right?
At the bottom here. So it's tools, and then there's a bunch of code, Google_search. That's basically it. If you append that.
This is the API call, basically. Like, just showing this, what you're looking at is the JSON you send to the API to get the response from Google. Because the grounded in search doesn't work by default on N8N, right?
Correct, yes. So do you want to explain what grounded in search is, actually?
Yeah. Basically, it's just before the LLM gives its final answer, it actually brainstorms a bunch of search queries, searches for them, reads the relevant pages, like it picks pages from the search results. I've seen it do up to 25 searches for a grounded query, actually. So it kind of chooses. Sometimes it's like 5, sometimes it's like 25. It reads between, let's say, 5 and like 30, 40 pages to try to get background information and reach the context before it actually writes its final answer. And then it writes the final answer based on the prompt that you gave it. So in this case, like you're asking it to understand the company, what they do, etc. So it brainstorms queries like, company name plus awards, company name plus team, company name plus Glassdoor, like things like that. I would just pick results in there, read them, and give you the answer, which is going to be not made up, not hallucinated, but actually factual. And I see the temperature you set is 0 as well, which means it tunes down the creativity of the LLM to basically nothing. So it's not creative at all. It just outputs data.
I just want to explain the temperature for a bit, because it's actually a really important thing in AI.
Okay.
Large language models are basically very good at guessing what the next word is. That is essentially what's happening underneath all this crazy code and language that you see. So if I say the cat sat on then you probably assume that the most likely next word is mat, because it's a common, common
I wouldn't be a good LLM.
phrase that children are taught. The cat sat on the mat. But if you happen to be on a boat, then you might say like the cat sat on the boat, or something else. The context of where you are matters. But the LLM has hundreds of possible words that could be the next word, and it's ranking the probability of each word of what's going to be the next word in that case. So when you turn down the temperature, you're turning down essentially the amount of consideration it's giving to the least probable words that it's going to be selecting next. So it will take the safe approach. So that's a good way to then reduce hallucinations, which we often see in AI when it just makes stuff up, right? That's because it's trying to be a bit more creative. So we're turning down the temperature.
Probably the only setting you actually play with, like there's a lot of other ones like the top K, etc. It doesn't really change that much, but temperature, it does change a lot. Like I've played a lot with grounded search, and it would just hallucinate stuff. Like funny part also, when you make a model reason with grounded search, it might make up stuff in
the reasoning step
phase
that's not
and
there
then after
in the
that
search.
It searches, but it takes the stuff it made up in the reasoning. So actually, if you use grounded search, you're better off not making it reason. So 2.5 Flash is a good example of a model that could reason or not reason. You're better with the non-reasoning one, and then just take the output and run a reasoning model on the output after, if you want, with a higher temperature to like write something or whatever.
So it's actually a good tip. Like whatever you're building in AI, if you use Google Gemini 2.0 Flash grounded, it's a really good way of researching people, companies, really anything. And you can do it 1,500 times a day for free. Compare that to using the Perplexity API. It's a significant amount of money, especially when you're doing something at scale, like researching 5,000 prospects or something. That these costs start to add up, so it makes sense to then try and be more efficient with your costs.
Okay, we're talking about all this stuff, but can you just actually run it so we can actually show people like how this actually works?
Okay, so now it's done running. Let me show you the insights that it's generated. So this first one is for Adapt Group, and you can actually see further down here the search queries that it's performed. So imagine going to Google and searching for the name of the company, and then client projects, team structure, company culture, awards, all these useful things, and then being able to pull out the key bits of data that might be useful here. Well, that's exactly what's happened. If we scroll up,
you would pay an intern to do that, right? Like you would pay before you'd get someone to
this is 5-10 minutes of time for someone who's kind of trying to personalize email, but AI does this in seconds basically, and it does it while you sleep. So here are some of the insights. This is what they do. They specialize in this type of marketing, these types of videos. In 2020, they expanded the team and moved to a larger office. Something could be useful for talking about recruitment, as we're trying to do.
Connect.
Yeah, Andy has been creative director since 2013, so he's been there a long time, and there's some insight timing on that. Yeah, you get the picture. It's like it's pulling out some really
it's pretty good insights actually.
Good
I must say.
research. Especially for something which is free. And we also have some insights on the location. So it's found that the primary UK city is Manchester, and they have a physical office. Okay, great.
Okay, makes sense with the insight as well.
So then what we have next is we merge all that data and feed it into a pretty extensive prompt. And there's a long prompt, but all this long prompt is doing is creating 2 icebreaker sentences, one for the first email and one for the second. Let me show you the output that it gave.
Okay.
So the first is, must have been busy time while expanding the team and moving offices a while back, right? Second
I like that it
is,
says a while back because the date was 2020, I think. So it's kind of a while.
when I created this initially, it was saying, oh, I saw you recently hired, or saw you hired such and such to your team, or a new editor to your team, because it was pulling those insights. But then I would check on LinkedIn and that person had already left the company. They'd been there 5 years. Timing to kind of pull it. Yeah. There was a lot of trial and error of this and trying to perfect it. And I'd say honestly, it's like 97, 98% perfect. So, 3 out of 100, it'll miss something completely, but it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So that's fine.
Okay.
The second part is where, remember we said we saw they had an office in Manchester. So this is saying saw Adapt has a base in Manchester. It must be tough competing for great editors with names like the BBC, and there's a couple other companies which are based in Manchester. Here,
so it thinks of like who is based in Manchester, and then it just kind of like writes this. So it looks like you understand the environment.
Exactly. So because I was doing the UK, I basically picked the 10 or 15 biggest cities or areas. And then I manually went and found who are big companies who are paying over the odds for top editors.
Couldn't you do deep research for that?
Well, I tried that initially, but then it started going too far off track, right? It would say like, oh, I saw you're based in London, or I saw you based in this city. Or you must be tough competing with Netflix, who are based in a different city. And it wasn't very good at it. So I wasn't
precise enough. That's why like the human touch, like the people who fully automate, they lose because AI is like 80-90% there. But if you kind of go that little extra mile and add that little bit of extra quality, then you can really outshine people who automate everything while still making it significantly less labor intensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like when I was creating this prompt, right, it looks very long and complicated, but essentially all it's saying is like, hey, here's your role, here's what I'm doing, here's the inputs you're going to get, and then here's some kind of guidelines for how to interpret the insight. So like, here's what the goal of the icebreaker is, and we're trying to connect with the prospect, show empathy. Yeah. Nothing a million miles away from what you would tell a junior researcher if you're giving them the task for the first time. And by the way, when I created this prompt, I used AI to create the prompt, and
You didn't write everything?
I went on Typing Mind, right? And I think I was using Gemini 2.5 Pro for prompt creation at the time. I would probably use Claude 4.0 Sonnet right now.
I disagree. I like Gemini 2.5 Pro better for
You think it's better for prompt writing? Okay.
Yeah, I have both, and I like Gemini better for this kind of work.
And what I did is I just recorded my voice and I just talked for 5 minutes about what I was trying to do. And then it came up with an earlier version of this. Then I would try it, see the results, and then say like, hey, I did this, I got this result, I don't like this, I'm looking more for this. And then it would update the prompt, I would try it again. And there was like, honestly, like 10 or 12 rounds of that for both the research nodes and the prompt nodes. So it took a while to get it, but I think it's in a pretty good state now, and it's better than most outreach that people would get.
I must say, yeah, it's like a lot of people will be like, well, you're way over engineering this, like this prompt is massive, etc. But the point is, this first sentence that people read from you is literally the most important thing in the entire relationship, because if you make a mistake here, you're basically losing the lead at this point, and you're not going to get an opportunity to sell them something. So you've put the most effort into the most important part, which is the first sentence they read about you. And that's why I imagine you use a better model as well, like the model that writes this is maybe 2.5 Pro or something.
I think it's 2.5 Pro. Oh, no, I used Flash for this one as well, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
2.5
yeah,
Flash.
2.5 Flash. Yeah, it's a reasoning model. So you're in reasoning mode. It's significantly smarter than 2.5 Flash.
This was another thing. So I actually started with Pro, but one of the problems was it was taking so long when I was doing all the tests. It was a bit annoying. But I got it to where I wanted to be with Pro, and then I would like downgrade the model until it like lost quality. But like 2.5 Flash was fine. I think 2.0 Flash wasn't quite good enough.
It's not enough.
2.5, and that gives me 500 free queries per day with this.
A day, yeah.
Yeah. So again, trying to optimize for low cost.
Yeah, that's why Gemini is good. It's like Gemini is not always the best model, but for the price, I mean, like literally this entire automation is free if you send less than 500 emails per day.
And it is, because I run the previous one and this one like 500 a day or like 1,500 a day for the previous one. And I've never paid a cent to do any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, the N8N hosting's what, $10 a month or how much we pay for that. So it's like essentially, for unlimited use of, unless we go crazy.
Not unlimited. If we were spamming it, it would cost more in resources. Like it's usage based for the CPU, but it's still cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens next?
That all of that is just to create these like two phrases here.
That's
But
funny.
as you said, it's so important. And really, I would say what's the best thing about it is that the language and the phrasing of it is very casual. There's no obvious merge fields here. You see when someone mentions the title of our podcast, the exact title of our podcast pulled from YouTube when they're doing outreach, or, you know, you've had it with the title tag from a page when they're doing link building outreach.
Didn't you actually have an automation that would take the company name, like the full name, and rewrite it to be like more casual?
Yeah, so I did that in the sheet here. I've gotten rid of it now, I think. Yeah, oh no, here it is.
Okay.
Company name and company name cleaned. So, for example, Venom Base
TMC
Studios,
marketing.
I say Venom, it shortened it to Venom Base. So I
Yeah.
made it's actually a Google Apps script. I think it's still in here actually.
With
Yeah.
AI as well, right?
Yeah, so we made this so you could basically use Gemini to do stuff in here. But I think you can do that natively now in Google Sheets.
Yeah.
If you go into your admin.google.com, you can turn on that feature and it allows you to do
like equal AI.
equal AI and then just whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's free actually for unlimited
I mean, if
usage,
you're in Workspace, yes, it's free.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's the kind of like little details where like you change the company name to not sound exactly like it. And so like that's how you stand out. That's how you get this high conversion rate compared to like 99% of people.
And here's a good example of that. So Saw Venom Base has a base in Stoke-on-Trent, right? But if you say Saw Venom Base Studios has a base in Stoke-on-Trent, it's like if I was writing that manually, I wouldn't write the word studios there. Anyway, once we have that, the next task is to send that merge field and that contact into Instantly. And you can do that manually by taking your Google Sheet and uploading all of the documents. Yeah, of course. So you want AI to do it. I made a separate automation for it. The reason being just so I could control how many I was putting in and when I was putting it in, because I wanted to check the quality before I would send it in. But you could essentially stick this API request to Instantly at the end of your previous chain here. So after you've written the
how do you build these API requests? Like, how did you figure it out?
So essentially, you create an HTTP request to Instantly, and you basically send it. Here's the campaign, and then here's the email, first name, last name, and the custom variables, email 1 and 2. And all it does is just ping your account with that data, and it adds the prospect in your campaign. And then the automation loops over as many times as there are prospects that have this data, and it sends it in. Again, like, you know, I barely knew what an HTTP request was a few weeks ago. So you really don't need to be a developer to do this stuff. What I did is I went on Instantly's API documentation and I found the bit about adding a lead to a campaign. And then I copied that whole section, which had all these variables and what they do, put it into AI and said, hey, I'm trying to create an NAN HTTP request to send these contacts into this campaign. Here's the campaign idea. Can you write the expression for me? And it wrote me this. Actually, it got it wrong. First of all, it said campaign_ID for the first one. So I was trying it and it was loading it into the system, but not in the campaign. And I was like, what's going on here? It doesn't make sense. But I just messaged Instantly support and they were like, oh yeah, you've got this wrong. Fix it. So,
and the AI fixed it.
So initially, it actually took a couple of days to sort that out.
But okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is the real life of automation. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the time spent in NAN is fixing little problems like this, where there's like, you know, a word which is like typed incorrectly or whatever. You know, you did that podcast last week about Gumloop. This is where tools like that are maybe a little bit more user-friendly and save you a bit of time. But I really think with NAN is like once you have it built and once you understand it, you then make a lot of time savings and importantly money savings in the long term. Yeah.
It's worth learning, but it's a learning curve. And I know some people struggle. That's why I did Gumloop, actually.
Yeah. And so that will then, when it sends emails out, it's going to put in that custom field, which was this one here.
Email 1, email 2, yeah.
Yeah, which is basically the icebreaker. And then,
interesting, you don't write the whole email with AI. You just write chunks of it. Why is that?
It's very, very complicated the further you go with it. And I found that I initially tried to do this, but it just wasn't very good. So I wanted to have enough control over what I was saying and make sure that it was going to be good and sound natural. And it just wasn't. Part of the problem with cold outreach and AI is I think there's a lot of crap content which it's been trained with out there. So it tends to go very generic, very salesy, very kind of cheesy, unless you are very, very precise and very clear about what you're asking it to do.
You might as well just write it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's essentially
one thing as well is I think it's for learning, right? It's like at least this way you can learn, you can template emails. and do proper A/B tests with like enough emails that look more like
Really
each
good
other.
point. That's so important, because if AI is just writing everything, then every email is going to be unique,
it's all
and
random.
you have no idea what works. This way, we're testing this, and even though there's slight variations because of the syntax, at the same time, we have an approach that we're using. And if this doesn't work, or if this works, then we might try different variations of it, and we can learn and improve that way. So yeah, hugely important. I just want to point out a couple things instantly. So it's very similar to other cold outreach things like in Mailshake, if you've used that before, is, you set a delay, and then after 4 days, the second email goes out, and here's what it looks like. And you can see I've got the second
like an autoresponder
personalization, essentially. And it just manages when to send those things in there.
Do you know like what percentage of people reply to the first, second, third email? Like how valuable is the follow-up?
So you can see here 2.1% replied to the first email, 2.8 to the second. So, that's probably quite a good one, because I mentioned the location insights maybe were quite strong there. And then 2.1 to the third. There's no personalization in the third.
So you get more than 6% total. You get almost 7%. You get 7%
reply
rate when you
but
the kind of stack, right?
That includes things like out of office and, maybes and like, there's things that the opportunities are what actually matters. So you can see we got 4 people responded and 2 people. These are people who it has a really cool AI system. I'll show you actually.
So actually, the second email got more replies than the first one. So people who don't follow up on this, they're basically missing out on most of the leads.
Yeah, exactly. And we've done various tests before on response rates, and when we're doing link building, on how many of our follow-ups resulted in links, and it's like 50% of the result comes from your follow-ups. If you're not following up, you got to follow up, basically. 1 or 2 follow-ups is enough. Don't do any more, otherwise it's kind of spammy.
I really like this because this is a very direct translation of your link building outreach skills into something valuable in this new AI world. And I think for a lot of people, it's kind of a relief that you're not just losing all your experience, and you do get to capitalize on what you've done before. So if you've done link building before, it's definitely worth exploring this kind of stuff.
Yeah, even if you're still doing link building, do this for link building or to sell your link building service or whatever. That's just a really good approach for that. Anything B2B, this will work. So couple of points of learning, I think, which are really useful as a little AI hack for this is there's this guy here, Eric I know you're going to try and pronounce that, Nowalski or something.
Yeah.
He is...
Nowalski.
Yeah. Freaking amazing at B2B cold outreach, like really, really good content. And he's only got
not as good at YouTube though.
9K subscribers on here, but it's criminal. Like he needs to have more. It's so good. So what I did is I followed your Notebook LM tactic. I basically took 50 of his YouTube videos and shoved them into Notebook LM, which is a free service, but from Google. Essentially, I'm building an AI which is, it's not quite trained, but it's using the context of his last 50 videos. So I can ask it questions like, here's a good example. Help me write a cold email outreach subject for Facebook ads agencies targeting accountants in the UK. And then it uses the knowledge from all these videos to do that, but also to teach me about it at the same time. So it's giving me a list of email subject lines I can use. And then it's saying why this one is good. It's using pattern interrupt or a thought-provoking style. And it references where that is. So if you're trying to do something specific, which a YouTuber is teaching, this is a really great way to be able to achieve that. And it's completely free as well.
Would you argue this is better than like online courses? Like in a way, you kind of get what you want when you want it. The only thing is like you don't get what you don't ask. And sometimes you do need to see the things you don't ask for.
Exactly. So what is it, like unconscious incompetence? You're not going to see that. And there's no structure for how you go through it. So you still kind of need to know what you don't know before you can use this effectively. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you can ask AI about that.
Yeah.
What do I not know that based on our discussion?
Exactly. And I think that's a bigger topic maybe for another podcast, but like are courses dying out in future? Well, there's certainly a risk, right? At least
I'll show you something next time. I'll keep it for next time, but I'll show you.
Subscribe so you don't miss that episode.
Okay, but this is really cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Again, like you can do that for like someone who specializes in a topic, make a notebook LM. There's like a Chrome extension that allows you to select all the videos, just import them in one click.
In fact,
and boom, you just have a custom chatbot.
If you go onto my Instagram, we'll put a link below it. There's a 2-minute video that shows you exactly how to do this. I think it's the one which is a clone Alex Hormozi's brain, and it shows you this process. So it's Gail's idea. I just made a reel about it. So.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's really good. Anything else on cold outreach that people should know?
Do you want to talk maybe about business plans for how people can launch this as a service? Maybe we could do a little brainstorming.
I mean, let's talk about the value proposition and how you offer it, right?
Okay.
It's like, I think people are too worried about the reach, but what matters is more the offer. From talking to people, What I've realized is it's pretty cheap to set that up. So if you have decent leads around you that you can offer it to, you can almost offer a free setup and then a pay per lead. I think a lot of people do that. And it's almost like you're building your own little affiliate program, basically.
Yeah, good point. Because this company here was it was $2,000 a month. 20 leads per month, right?
$100 per lead.
It's $100 per lead. But it depends how you count a lead. Some companies will count anyone that replies as a lead. Others will count only people that book a call. So there's some flexibility there. But we were sending, what were our numbers? We've sent it 290 and we've got 6 leads. So if you're able to get up to like 100 a day, then you'd be sending, let's say 2,000 a month. 2% response rate.
2 leads a day.
Yeah, so you get like 40 leads from that. So that would already take you into their $3,700 a month. So,
But most importantly, I think the offer is important. Like, I think a lot of people, first of all, when they start that, they're not sure they can deliver because they haven't done it. And on the other side, it's really hard to ask like $3,700 upfront to a business. I think that's a terrible way to sell it. Well, the way I would do this is I would probably be like, okay, well, how about you pay me $150 per lead, depending on the business, right? Let's say like interior design leads or something.
Yeah, you want to target people whose the value of a lead is thousands of dollars, really, not like hundreds of dollars.
And be like, for every qualified lead, you pay me $150. Yep. The reason I would say $150 is because then if they want to negotiate, you can be like, okay, well, pay me a fix $4K per month and I'll give you 40 leads, for example. And that's like, they feel like they get a good discount. And then you get some stability, basically. Or like, I'll target 40 leads. I'll do the same volume that got you 40 leads in the past. Something like that.
Essentially, there's no startup fee. So it's like, if you don't succeed, they don't pay anything.
How much does it cost you to set up, actually? Like, what's the actual risk
for you? Cost
instantly
is going to be instantly, you probably need the $97 a month plan. Okay. And then you'll need to buy some emails, depending on how many you do. Let's say you do 10 email accounts, $50 a month for that. But
150.
Yeah. The important thing though is that you need 1 month to warm those emails up before you send anything. So you're not going to be making any money in that first month. But that's good because it gives you time to build all the automations and get your email template right and sort that stuff. So it's a good deadline, 30 days to do all that, and then you can start sending.
But yeah, the way I would do that, I'd be like, look, pay me nothing today. And then like when I send you your first lead, then start paying me. And then there's no risk. And that's kind of like the easiest way to sell that to someone because the lead is like $150. Like you say that to a lawyer or something, like it's nothing, right? It's just like, it's pocket money. It's their lunch, Nice lunch, but still. You know what I mean? And so in my opinion, the way you present that is both reassuring to you and to the business owner. And then you can reach out to people around you. For sure, a few people that could use that are contractors that you could sell it to. I would just start that way and then build testimonials, basically build proof after that.
I really like this concept when you're starting a new business of like, find 3 to 5 clients, ideally people you're friendly with. You can give them a really good deal, right? Whether it's pay per lead or like they pay the costs and then you just run it or whatever it is. And then use them to get some results to understand what the service is, structure it yourself, and get those testimonials, video if possible. And then once you have 3 or 4 of those, it's so much easier to sell whatever your service is to other people because it's like social proof. And that's one of the most important things.
And that's what we've done with a System Stack, right? Essentially, we've helped a few people, like just on the side that we knew, we just reach out, etc. And then it got us like, I think 4 testimonials or something. Not that much, but again, it's like we started literally like a few weeks ago. And now we were able to put like a page together that essentially showcases a little bit of proof and so on. And that got us more leads. So we have calls with several people that we're talking to help them. And now hopefully we help some people, we get even more proof that gets more people interested. And that kind of like builds that flywheel where you just go back and forth. And so really the idea is to get that really, I like the Atmosi for that. I like the offer people feel stupid saying no to. Like that's really good. And because the cost is like not super high, I mean, look, the price of Instantly is the price of like a month or of your Ahrefs account and then plus $50. And then it's like, you know what I mean? Like you'd buy not even a single backlink these days. That's not shit for this price. And then you get a shot at essentially building your own mini affiliate program and just starting to build recurring revenue, basically, if you can generate leads for people. So that's how I would sell that.
Yeah, there's also maybe like a couple of things you could bolt onto this. Like, you'd set up a retargeting campaign for a company or like they're making the most of all these people who are going to be visiting their website. They may have this stuff set up already, but there's other services you could kind of append to it.
You can upsell them.
To kind of upsell.
Upsell marketing.
The most important thing, and if it wasn't clear, I'm going to say it again, is this only works in B2B, right? So what are the types of companies that this would work for? Well, SaaS is like B2B SaaS is an obvious option. They always seem to have loads of money. Marketing agencies.
Construction, real estate.
Construction.
Real estate, renovation, refurbishing, asbestos removal.
But that's
like
you mean? But like, how would they cold outreach to their clients, like asbestos removal?
I would try to find some data on areas with the most asbestos.
But that's B2C.
Then
That's not B2B. So
well,
it's
no,
be
it can be B2B for office space and so on. Like,
yeah,
that's not
but
true.
I mean, if you're doing kind of like office renovation or office design and interior design for office, sure. But if it's like, you know, interior design for a 2-bedroom apartment in the city
Yeah,
center,
okay, that's
not
different.
the same. So I'm thinking more like agencies that sell stuff to other agencies, link building agencies, SEO agencies, Facebook ad agencies, recruitment agencies. Like their clients are other companies, right? Any professional services, so like, you know, contract lawyers or, you know, accountants for small businesses, like these.
I was going to say
things.
lawyers, maybe insurance, brokers.
Yeah, insurance is a
stuff
great
like
one
that as well.
actually. Any loans, banking,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So I mean, there's still quite a bit, and there's good money in these areas, so that's nice. You don't need too many clients to make good money.
And I would also say partnerships could be another interesting option. Maybe you could find a web designer that makes sites for certain types of businesses and then partner with them and give them a commission of, you know, hey, do you want this company to do cold outreach for you? Here's what it costs. And then they make the intro, you give them a bit of commission. VCs, development agencies, vibe coders, you know, lots of opportunities there.
We're not there yet, but almost. We'll do another vibe coding episode. I think people like it. So yeah, I mean, all of this to say there's lots of opportunities. People always want more leads and more demand. And it's like you just need to find some kind of B2B business that could use more leads, sell them that at basically no cost until you get them their first lead. And it's a pretty solid offer. It's something that I would sell as a business.
Yeah. And I think when you are selling this or marketing this, it's not the medium like cold email. Like it doesn't matter. It's the fact is you have a way to get them leads and like have leads as the kind of shiny object that they're
People want
right?
more clients.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, well, I think we can wrap it up, right? Anything else? Any final words of wisdom on cold outreach?
It works really, really well. You know, everybody's talking about it at the
Don't
moment.
break it. Don't break it. That's the words of wisdom, okay, guys?
The race to the bottom, yeah. No, it does take a little bit of work to make it good, and that is what will get you results. If you just do some generic ChatGPT personalization intro, it's going to be bad and you're not going to get results. So put the time in and make it work.
I think that's important. A lot of people half-ass their work, including a lot of people who follow us. I'm sorry, guys, but that's true. And you saw the kind of like quality of work and the like kind of input Mark is putting just for like these little sentences, etc. That's the bar. If you want to actually do well with this, that's where you need to go. Anything less, someone else is going to be willing to put that work and is going to outclass you, and eventually nobody's going to open your emails. So it's not work free. You need to get to that level and potentially higher. Like we are always going to strive to do better with this. If you're not willing to do that, don't bother. You're just going to land in spam, etc. You're not going to do well with deliverability and so on. So I guess that's the final words of wisdom.
Oh, I guess the actual final words of wisdom would maybe be like, if you want us to do this for your business, then happy to have a conversation. Visit systemstack.ai. It's our agency, and we can
and you can book a call
have
there. And then you can see our beautiful vibe coded site, actually. We might talk about that next time. But anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.